we're going to talk about what's the best way to buy coffee from the store?
Yes, particularly a supermarket, large store. And I see in my thing I have here, how do you know? I mean, how do you know it's going to be a good tasting quality coffee?
Without even seeing the bean sometimes.
Yeah,
sometimes
you won't. You have to make a bit of a guess.
Exactly. How I guess we should tell how can you what can give you the best chances of making a good guess?
That's good. Yeah, I agree. I mean, long term, you're going to find you have one, you made a bad guess, it's going to be horrible. You won't go there again. I mean, you won't get that particular bean again.
Right.
It's a hit and miss.
Well, how do you? Because for me, like even at like the pizza shop, it's hard to not get the same pizza every time because I know I like this pizza.
Right.
How do I, with coffee, find a coffee that I like without? It could be hard to branch out, I guess is what I'm saying.
It could be, but like your pizza shop illustration, you will find certain qualities within certain pizza shops you go. You say, I'm going to keep going back to that one because there's qualities there that I really like. I'm never going to go this one because it was always cheap and plastic.
Well, and I guess it's like the whole Coke and Pepsi argument. If you like Coke, you're more likely to try different Coke products than you are Pepsi product or vice versa. So if you find a roaster you like,
yes,
you're probably on a good path to try some of their other roasts.
Exactly. And as I said before, roasters, from my experience, they're a fairly friendly bunch. They want to talk about coffee. They want to talk about good quality coffee. They want to talk about the farmer. So it's not that hard.
And if they're not super friendly, a lot of times they may not be a quality roaster.
Exactly. There you go. It's like your pizza example again. You won't go back there because that wasn't a good experience.
Exactly. And I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Two Brothers Coffee Roasters. And the reason I say specifically them is because that's what we are sipping on today. We are drinking the Mexico El Trifino, or no, how do you say that?
Oh, let's see.
I
think it's a
Trunfo.
Yeah, that's a tricky one.
Medium roast. And I would also like to give a shout out to my friend Frank, who gave this to us.
Oh, nice. Thank you, Frank. Good name, by the way.
Yeah, that was your dad's name.
It was.
Or still is. So we're trying this. And Dad, what do you think about this coffee? How does it taste?
I was a bit nervous. I'm always nervous, like going to a supermarket and not knowing the coffees. And when Reed brought this home, he was very excited, and I was excited too. And I thought, new coffee. Never been here before. I don't know who Two Brothers are.
Could be good, could be bad.
Could be good. And fortunately, we're going to go through some of these things. I filled it and I had this whole bean. Thought, good. There's reasons for that.
Right.
But we put some in the French press, and I liked it so much. I said to Reed when we were doing this podcast, let's have that Two Brothers one again as we sip coffee and do our podcast because it tastes really good.
And it says, I want to go into this coffee, but I'll be subtracting from the podcast we have planned today. So, and I think this is probably going to have similarities to our storage podcast at some parts.
Yeah, they all start to overlap. Yep.
Yeah, but I guess what I would start out with is that whatever supermarket or grocery store. Oftentimes, what I find is you walk past. You've walked past the coffee aisle. Let me say this in America.
You've not walked.
You've walked past the coffee aisle not because it smells like coffee.
Oh, coffee aisle. Yes.
But you smell just like French vanilla. All these different
hazelnut, snickerdoodle. I never realized there were such flavors in coffee.
I didn't know such beans existed.
No.
And it depends on where you go. For here, if you go to like Whole Foods or something, it's a little bit more less likely like that. But as we walk into the aisle, what we want to do is we want to help you make the best. Hopefully the best choices you can to try coffees that you're going to enjoy.
Yes. I mean, I would say if you can't get to a local roaster, that would be your first port is get to know your local roaster, enjoy them.
True.
But some places you just can't do that. So what are you going to do? And going to your supermarket, often you're going to get a lot of bad coffee.
Well, I guess that was going to be
But how are you going to get better bad coffee or actually getting good coffee?
Right, and I guess the one thing I would say is the more specialty of a shop it is, so for us in the Northwest here, Whole Foods, the more likely you are to get something that is possibly local or better quality, I would say. and like a specialty like grocery store, like a health food store, that kind of
Yes.
stuff. Those might have.
And that's a
little
key
bit
word,
better.
local. If they're trying to get local products, they're probably going to get a local roaster, and
Right.
therefore it's probably going to be a fresher coffee you're going to have, and so on. It's going to be probably a better situation.
Well, and just an interesting statistic is 2/3 of coffee is sold at the supermarket.
That's right.
Now, 2/3
In
coffee,
America, that's true.
right? And these are I mean, that might be all the bad coffee, or
With all
partly
our
good
talk
coffee,
of home roasting, with all our talk of storage and all stuff that we've learnt,
right.
you're right. It amazes me there's still 2/3 of the population buy their coffee at a supermarket.
Right. And what do you see? I mean, you roast coffee, so maybe the last time you bought coffee was a while back. But when you're going to buy coffee, what's the range in price that you see? Like, do you see like $3.99, or is it?
Yeah,
What's
you
the-
do. You do. There's funny. There's quite a range, and you do find the $3.99 and less, which makes me a little. I know I'm going to say a little curious, little nervous, leery. Makes me a lot leery,
Right.
if it can be that. But then sometimes they jack the price up, and you may still be getting bad beans or and not very fresh for a higher price. And the higher price, they're trying to attract someone who knows that a low price, you can't make coffee for that low price. But so you put the price up so it'll attract a group of people. Say, this must be good quality.
Well, the other thing is to take into account the price. If you have a really cheap coffee, I mean, just think about the supply chain or the process it took to get there.
Yeah.
Someone had to grow it. Someone had to pick it. Someone
Mhm.
had to process it. Someone had to ship it. Someone had to roast it. Someone had to bag it. Someone had to ship it again to the store.
Oh yeah.
Someone had to put it on the shelf. Like, if you see a bag for $3.99, that just kind of makes you wonder, like,
Yeah.
hmm.
Yeah, and not only the things I sort of think too, someone's missed out here. For that, who's missed out
Fair.
on the coffee? And I'm thinking probably the farmer has missed out even more so.
Who's getting the short end of the stick?
Yeah, exactly. And of course, us here in America, particularly, we're not going to get that short end.
Yeah. So let's jump into I can speak to this,
Specifics, yeah.
on what we're looking for. And I guess one thing I want to start out with is the one-way valve, and this might be a little bit similar to our storage
Right. Yes.
section as well. But can you talk a little bit about why do we want to see a one-way valve?
Right. Well, you do, and fortunately, I think people have clicked onto this more, and it's more common these days than it was even 5 years ago. Even people realize you need to have a one-way valve to have any chance of freshness of coffee. One-way
Right.
valve is you're pushing out carbon dioxide and not letting oxygen in. There's other chemicals and gases that you're worried about too, but
Right.
they're the two big fellas. And not to have a one-way valve right from the start. Whoa, you've got a bag, if it's your craft bag or one of the little brown bags that with no valve in it. We sometimes have, when we accidentally have, or we've got a faulty valve that's not working at carrying coffee when we're roasting coffee, if we put coffee into that, and even a whole bean, seal it up, and wait for the next day to send it off somewhere, we'll
Right.
come in the morning. I've come in the morning and seen balloons. They haven't been floating up in the ceiling or anything, but the coffee is almost ready to explode.
Because it's releasing gases.
Gases all night. It's been releasing gas, and that's why you have the one-way valve, is to let that gas out so you don't explode. But
Right.
more than that, so you don't let other gases in to destroy the flavors.
Well, like we talked about in our source, oxygen being something that can take away from the flavor or detract the quality of the bean. And I even think about how many things your bag has been next to before it's been on the shelf. What other products, different things that if you don't have a valve that's not allowing things in, coffee naturally is going to kind of absorb scents or flavors.
Yes.
And so, let's say you've got to sit next to a package of bananas.
Ooh.
Your coffee might taste like banana.
And you may like that.
And I mean, you may love it, but I mean, it's such a dual purpose of not letting the air out, but also not letting
Flavors in.
flavors in. And one thing I noticed that with some bags is you'll see there's no air in there. Like it's almost like
Oh,
And I'm talking whole bean with a one-way valve.
right.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like
Yeah.
if you took a package of coffee on the plane,
yes,
in
it
your-
would
in
get
your
sucked
bag,
out naturally. It does.
the air's gonna
Yeah.
go away. That doesn't
Vacuum.
mean that like, oh, it's the worst coffee in the world. It just means the air's been sucked out.
Yes, or you're in a supermarket situation. You've had probably some real nerdy coffee people go past. They've smelt it every time, and now they've pushed it so far. They've pushed everything out,
Right.
and of course it's not sucking anything in. So now it's it's got no gases in there,
Right. So
which is not a bad thing to say.
right, but hopefully there's a little more so you can smell it.
Yes.
So the one-way valve is really kind of a really easy point to
Yep, it's a
quickly
quick
look
one.
at it.
Yep.
Well, and again, if you see, and this is an interesting thing I just thought of, but so coffee releases gases as it's fresh and healthy.
Yes.
More so right after roasting. But is it always releasing gases, or is it?
It always. I mean, in a sense, it's always releasing gases, but it's decreasing rapidly after the first 24 hours. It's gonna be a lot less gas coming off than it was 24 hours ago.
So if you see a bag with a no one-way valve, completely sealed,
Yes.
like it's been vacuum sealed,
Oh, vacuum sealed. Yes.
So there's no way for air to
vacuum
get
sealed
in or
means
out.
if all those gases got sucked out, then they sealed it.
Oh. Maybe I'm. Well, I guess I'll get to the point. And you tell me if I'm wrong, because I could be wrong on this one. But if you see something that's got no one-way valve, it's been sealed,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not bursting at the seams in the bag,
Yeah.
it could mean that they bagged it after it had already released the gases, or
Yes,
it could be
right.
stale.
Yeah. It could. Yeah. You're right. Could be either of those things. Yeah.
Like there's, I guess that gets into like roast date, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But that's one thing that I would be leery of, but also not necessarily meaning it's not a deal breaker. Like it could be.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It couldn't. It could still be good coffee.
Right. Right. Yeah, you're not sure at that point, and you've really got to bring a number of features together to make your decision. If it's the one-way valve, it doesn't have it, there's a clue to say perhaps not. Perhaps leave that one, go for the one that does it next to it, because I don't know the difference. That's all the difference there is.
Right.
There's other things there, though, you're going to be looking at when you come down the aisle of what you're going to be looking for in a coffee, and is it fresh? There's many things we're going to start looking at.
Well, and that's why I guess one of the things I should specify first and foremost, and I feel bad not for saying it, but you should be buying whole bean coffee.
Right, and that, yeah, you should.
I just want to rule out for anyone listening that if you're buying ground coffee, that's already you're already kind of handicapping your options as far as like you like how long, because
we've thrown away your taste buds immediately. And here's my tip: if you're buying ground coffee, you've bought the ground coffee, go to the other aisle and buy a grinder, so you don't have to buy ground coffee again.
Well, and I think, not to promote our own podcast, but check out the Grinder podcast.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Because that'll give you some honest opinions on what grinders you can get, cheap as well. It's not always about the most expensive.
Yeah, yeah.
And then look at the French Press podcast, and you'll get a good idea of like you can get a $2 grinder at Goodwill and a French Press or a pour over, and you can have good coffee without having to spend a lot on a grinder.
Way better than buying an expensive coffee that's already ground. And no matter what you do, it's not going to be good.
Well, and that's the thing. You don't have to have all these amazing equipments to get great coffee.
Exactly.
French press, AeroPress, pour over. It's all very, very doable, very cheap, but also good quality.
Yeah.
So I just thought I'd throw that, because if you see it and it's ground, don't even consider it.
Yeah, that's right. There's other ones out there like there's vacuum tubs. You pull the little tab up and it's not a beer or whatever, but it's and what usually those, unfortunately, you could read on the labels, find out a bit more about them, but unfortunately what's been put in there to start with is probably cheaper coffee, probably some Arabica with some Robusta, and it looks good again, and the surface looks good, but you taste and you go, whoa, why did I buy a whole can of this? Now what are you going to do with a whole can of coffee that tastes stale?
Well, and you're gonna have to pull me up if I'm wrong on this, but Folgers coffee, which hopefully you're not considering,
might get sued.
But Folgers coffee comes ground in a can or in a plastic tub with a seal.
Yeah.
But it has to be pre-staled so that when they put it in there and they seal it, it doesn't blow the seal.
Yeah, there's some truth to that, Reed. I don't know the whole all the.
And I don't want to
Yeah.
badmouth them. I mean,
No.
I don't want to support it, but at the same time,
yeah.
like there's that aspect of like, you're really just crippling coffee at that point.
Yeah, it's you're putting convenience so far ahead of actually the taste.
That's a good point.
And it's sort of thinking, well, why bother? Why not just go and suck on a bit of chewing gum bar wrapper? Sorry, that was a bad.
That was not the best example, but also wouldn't taste good.
No.
So we've done the one-way valve. We've really harped on ground.
Yeah, we
coffee.
have. Yeah.
I think for me, the most important thing after that is the roast date.
It's a big one.
It's a big tell.
It's happening more now that you can see people are starting to realize it. And there's different ways people do it. Best by date, when roasted date.
Well, and some of those are dangerous because the best by date doesn't actually tell you when it was roasted.
Oh, in fact, that's a very dangerous, subtle
Well,
one.
and specifically if, it's what's today, 26th?
I don't know, yeah.
No, 27th. So
Yeah.
June 27, 2018. If the Best Buy says something in 2019, it's like, well, don't know when it was roasted, but I know it's definitely not good for that long.
No, walk right past that one.
Yeah.
It's just told you already that you're going to waste your money on it. You might as well. I mean, if you're going to do that, you waste your money. You might as well just walk past and waste the coffee as well because it's not going to be nice.
Right. So you're looking for a roast. So what range are we looking in for? Like when I'm buying it, I want it to be roasted within how much time?
There's different variations out there, but I mean, you probably if it's got when it was roasted, the day that the bean went into the roaster, it went through its 10, 12, 14 minutes roast. And it came out, it got cooled in the cooling tray, it gets put in a bag. Then after that, and the clock starts to tick.
Time bomb.
Yeah, it is a time bomb. But you've got at least, I'd say a month, and I'm going to say 2 months just to...
Generous.
I am generous. This is a whole bean. You haven't ground it.
Whole bean in an appropriately stored
Yep, exactly.
package.
Yep. In your cupboard and oxygen, one-way valve, all that sort of thing. And but 1 month, 2 months, you could possibly get away with.
So we'll say a month and a half to split the difference.
Yep. Okay. Good. Yeah. And
So if I get it, I can see, okay, this was roasted 2 weeks ago. That's okay at the store.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think there's no reason why not.
So as long as I've consumed it by a month and a half to 2 months, I'm okay.
Therefore, rather than buy 2 packets, buy 1 packet and come back and get another one that's been roasted 2 weeks later.
Right.
And you can just, if we're fortunate to be in a place where you can buy from your roaster, then you're set. You can just get enough to go for the month, and you've got some more ready to go for the next month.
And like I would say on the bag, so in the bag in front of us here, we have, it says roasted on 6/6/18, and the Best Buy is 12/6/18. So 6 months.
That's 6 months. That's getting out there a little bit, but
So in my opinion, I would say that that's probably way too long.
probably too long. But the nice thing they did put when they roasted it, so you can make
Right.
the choice yourself.
Well, and for instance, like this coffee we really like, and we know when it was roasted, and we know, okay, well, we can consume it before the Best Buy date.
Yeah, and I think you'd have to. Yes, otherwise you'll suddenly taste and say, "Oh, I don't like this coffee."
And I think that's an important piece. Just getting coffee that's relevant. I mean, we call that like that's to date. Like you wouldn't want to buy bread that was made 6 months ago.
No, exactly.
It'd be hard as a rock or stale or moldy.
Especially if you ground it up as well.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Right. It's like opening the bag and letting it sit for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So what do you think is next? So we've got the roast date. We've got the Best Buy date and when we should be consuming it. The Best Buy's not as important because if you know when you need to consume it by,
Yes.
then you're good. But as long as it's got a roast,
But you've got to know when that
or
starts.
roasted.
Otherwise, you have
Right.
no idea. I've had coffee. I think I said once before. I saw one not long ago. It was 2 years Best Buy. It's going to last for 2 years. And I think, good not. Perhaps you're in space. I don't know. Vacuum.
yeah, maybe. But what comes next? What do you think?
There's different parts to it, and one would be: is it sealed or not? Because and I say that because sometimes you can get coffee that's got the date when it was roasted and it's not sealed. And okay, whatever. They may have degassed it before he even left the facility, but and that's probably all right.
And when you say not sealed, what do you mean?
Oh, I mean, so that you've put the coffee into the packaging, and you usually a heat sealer that goes. You put it in, and it closes the tops together, so you can't open them.
Right.
And that's a good thing to do. That just keeps the oxygen, carbon dioxide balance, whatever it needs to do, and helps that best when it started roasting. So it got roasted and it got sealed, so nothing else happened after that.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And as you say, it wasn't sitting next to the bananas, and if it's not sealed, well, great. Coffee says, party, let's have party with the bananas. And suddenly you've got this whole thing going on.
Right. Coffee will assume a flavor that's next to it if it's not sealed. I was gonna say the other thing to look for is like the roast, or like, so for instance, I keep referencing the bag in front of us. It says medium roast, but if you see some, like, what kind of things are we looking for?
Sort of a preference thing here in some ways. Although typically, no, it isn't typically, but often, if you do even get the words light, medium, or dark roast, you may have your own preference what you want.
Right.
But be aware that if you go for instance, the dark roast that a lot of people like, and that's fine, dark roast does cover a multitude of sins, let me put it that way. It can do. You can get a good dark roast, and you can get balance and caramelization all happening nicely. But typically, the reason the people who have roasted it are doing it, it's more about the money and what they can cover up, because it does cover a lot of defects.
Well, I think of it like a triangle or a pyramid.
Yes.
At the base of the pyramid, you have a wide variety of flavors.
Yes.
Each coffee has a section of those flavors, but not all of them.
Yes.
And as the darker you roast it, the further you go up in that pyramid. And at the very top is dark roast. And so as you get to the top, all coffees start to assume a similar flavor.
And the reason they assume a more similar flavor is because you are filtering out flavors, basically, and therefore
burning them off.
Yeah, you could say that. You're going way past, and organic acids, the things are changing to all sorts of things. The quinic acid and caffeic acid and things are changing in there, and as you get darker and darker, there's just less coffee flavors left in the coffee.
Right.
And that may be good. Sometimes when I've gone somewhere I have not a clue what I'm buying, where I am, I will buy a dark roast just for that very reason, that at least I know it's going to be possibly consistently bad, but at least it'll be consistent and I know what I'm going to drink, rather than something just terrible that it's not going to be nice.
Right. And I would say that the lighter, if someone puts light roast or medium roast, it could be that mixed with kind of everything else we've said, that might be an indication. I would consider that bold, like to put on there, hey, I'm going to do a light roast.
Well, it is bold. At the same time, you capture a lot of people who may be unsuspecting that
true
of what dark roast means, because the word itself is very subjective. What does dark roast mean?
Light roast to you might be dark roast to me.
Exactly.
But I think with like the vacuum seal, the one-way valve, the roast date, and the light roast, or medium roast, I'm not going to say it's perfect, but you're more likely to get someone who's...
It's giving you some more information that you can make a decision on. And I think actually above where it says that, it's got the name of the coffee. And when you get the name of the coffee, now we're talking about estates, that's different to blended coffee. And that's another story we'll talk about in a moment, perhaps. If you've got an estate coffee, it's getting more specific. And the more specific they can be on the label, rather than just saying, for instance, Guatemala. That's a whole country.
Right.
Could be anywhere in Guatemala. Who knows? Could be good, bad. Could be Robusta. Could be anything. But if they say Guatemala Monte Cristo, suddenly you've got a farm now you're talking about.
You can actually look that up.
You can actually look that exactly. And I don't want to forget saying this, but I was thinking today, you've got these little mechanisms we carry around with us everywhere.
Little phones.
Yeah, they're joined to us basically.
Yeah.
But you can look up some of these if you're unsure while you're there. You can take a picture of it. You can do all sorts of things, and you can find out what the website says. Because to me, I suddenly thought that's a good indication. Going to their website will give you another option to say, are these guys for real? Are they really quality?
Right.
They say it's high quality beans, grown beans, and but they may not be. They may be just all sorts of things, and they've said that,
Mhm.
but it may not be true. So going to the website, you can actually find out, okay, oh, here's the name of the farmer, here's the altitude. This is giving me very specific about that coffee. And the more specific it is, once again, you're probably going to be in a good realm of this may be good quality coffee. This may
Right.
be what it says it is.
Well, I think of it like anything. Like if it says, like, for this one says Mexico El Triunfo.
Yep.
Um,
Trumfo.
Triunfo. Um, it's like reading the ingredients on the back of a package.
Mm-hmm.
If you read it and it says xanthan gum and weird things you're not sure of,
64932.
or if it's very generic, it makes you less inclined to believe it's a quality product. But if someone's very explicit that says, "Hey, I have this type of flour mixed with this type of a grain and this," if someone can detail it, or it's like going to a store that says this shirt was made in, Memphis, Tennessee by this person, you're like, wow, you're not hiding the fact of you're not hiding the ingredients.
Yes.
Gives me a little bit like when there's less hidden from you.
Yes.
It almost makes you feel a little bit more like, okay, you're proud of your product.
Yeah.
And also, I think it gives a good amount of recognition to the farm.
Yep,
which
exactly. That's a good point.
often doesn't get the money, number
Yeah,
one, but the recognition it deserves.
Oh, deserves, exactly. We call that in our industry and in others too, being transparent. And we're transparent because we want people to know, we want people to look up where this coffee came from. We want them to look up to see what process it was.
Right.
That's another thing on the bag. Is it a natural? Is it a semi-pulped? Is it a wet process? Because that's going to have a bearing. And you can have the same coffee that is a wet process and natural, and it'll taste completely different.
Right.
And you need to know the difference.
Well, and I just looked at the time and realized
I saw that too.
it's going quite quick. Must be we're enjoying it. But the other thing I was thinking about, I was looking it up today. I was on a website looking at some coffee. It was Arabica.
Oh, yes.
And Robusta.
Oh, yes, that's out there, yes.
And I want to Robusta this myth of the two coffees. But you only want Arabica, right? I mean, you could have Robusta, but Robusta is like instant coffee users.
It's used a lot for, and Robusta is, as the name suggests, it's robust. Why is it robust? Because it stops insects getting into it because it's so hard, and therefore the quality is a little different. You can get some good ones, I'm not saying you can't.
Right, but it's you're if you had to make a bet.
Again, you go in the supermarket and some roasters or some manufacturers have cottoned on to that. They know the word Arabica is one of those words that people go, oh, Arabica must be good. Once again, go further, go dig deeper, go Arabica. Where's it from? Oh, it's from Mexico. It's from Guatemala. Where's it in Guatemala? Is it from? What altitude is it? The higher the altitude, probably the better quality.
Well, and I would
say the higher the altitude, it's going to be more expensive because how do you get it from the top of the mountain down to the bottom?
Right,
it costs more money. Yeah.
Well, and I would say that the bag we have here doesn't actually say Arabica or Robusta on it. I can assume it's an Arabica, but it doesn't actually specify. So it's not necessarily like if it doesn't specify, it doesn't mean you can't.
And then that's where it does give you websites and things you can go to, and you can find out. Well, they'll tell you there for sure because I would say it probably is Arabica. Yeah, which is great, and also it has a description of the bean as well, which is good on a bag. They should be able to tell you it's not going to be perfect. It's going to change different methods you use, but more detail again.
And I think of it like a wine. Like if a wine said made in the USA versus bottled in, Orange County, California at this farm.
Yes.
I don't think a good wine hides its origin.
Need to. They want to sell good quality. They want to get a good price for it for the farmer, for whoever. So tell the people. And
here's a question: blends of coffee or single origin? What?
Yes, blends and single origins, they sort of go backwards and forwards over time. Generations come back to it and go back. Both are good. Both are good. Estates, because it's more specific, so you can get some more specific detailed information about it. Blends, the reason we do blends is probably another topic, but...
and blends being multiple
Yeah, you can
coffees.
Have some from Ethiopia, some from Guatemala, and the purpose of those is to balance the coffee out, whether it's for espresso or if it's for a pour over.
Right.
And the nice thing about blends is you can just manipulate, I don't mean that in a bad sense, you can just balance out if coffees are changing, and they do through the year, and you're just going to, oh, I'm going to put 42% of this in rather than 40% because that fruit note we're losing it. We need to get more of that back in the blend.
Well, it allows you to customize a little bit your flavor.
Yes. Tip here, though, is it needs to tell you this is from 3 countries.
Right.
What 3 countries are those? Who knows?
And that it goes back to the name. Does it specify it's these 3 from these regions?
This is blended from Ethiopia and Mexico. Great. If it says even more, even better.
Right. The more you get, the better, or the more info.
Yeah.
So we've gone through kind of some of the, the blends, the single origins, some of that kind of stuff. We've gone through some of the bags. Sometimes, the more information that's on the bag, do they give you a description of their, coffee? Also, different things like, is it fair trade coffee? If someone's willing to spend time if there's a fair trade thing on there, someone's spending time to pay the farmer more. That doesn't mean it's a good coffee, or it doesn't mean they've roasted it well or anything.
True.
But they are putting more care into it.
Reed, you're getting to another territory of certifications now, and there's many of them, and some of them, most of them are pretty good. Some are some negative things. I would wait for another podcast for certification. Rainforest Alliance, organic.
If you see any certification,
friendly,
look it up, and it's possibly another indication towards more care on the actual bean and the process and the farmer.
Yeah.
Roast date is important.
Yeah.
What's the number one thing?
Well, this is going to sound...
I think I already know it.
Oh.
I might.
As I was talking to Tim, who was on the podcast last week, good roasters will do 2 things. They will roast really good coffee, and they will cup really good coffee.
Or they're just cup coffee.
It just cup. You roast it, you cup it. And really, for this is the same, taste your coffee, and you will know, unfortunately, you will know within the first few seconds. You will know when you open it up and smell the coffee. And if you don't smell the coffee, you will know you've made a bad purchase decision. Write it down, do whatever, and don't get that one next time. Get another one.
Well, and if you think of if you like wine, you try different wines and stuff. I would argue, depending on how much wine you drink, that a bag of coffee can last you longer than a bottle of wine. And think about how much you could spend on a single bottle of wine, and you easily trump the amount of money you could spend on a bag of coffee quickly. And so you think, if you spend $12, $20, anywhere in that range on a bag of coffee that you've done this research into, it's possible you might hate it. But if you like it, it's like trying good wines. How do you know what wines you like? Exactly. You tried them, or you ask the winemakers around. What are they buying? If they have to buy something in the supermarket, what would they buy? Right. And I think we talked a little bit about asking your coffee. Yeah. Go to your favorite coffee shop where they make your favorite coffee and ask them, what kind of coffee you have? Guess what? They want to tell you. It's not a secret. It's not a big secret. They want you to know they're fresh coffee, good coffee. And even us at Caravan, I'm not opposed to saying, get fresh coffee. Who's your roaster nearby? Get it from them. It may not be us, but they want you to have fresh coffee. Right. I think the idea behind, what we talk about in this podcast, quality coffee, is if you find quality coffee, go for it. Go for it. Like, there's not you have to get this one or that one, or this is the best. It is such a preference-based product. And if you can't do that, then guess what? Roast your own. Yeah. Check out the podcast from last week. So any final thoughts, any final remarks? No, I think it's an important one, because some people just literally cannot get to a local. There's not a local roaster around. You need to look at perhaps going on the web and getting coffee sent to you. In the States, we can do that, or roast your own. But otherwise, you're stuck with a supermarket. And within that supermarket, you, with a little thought and research, you may find yourself a little gem there. Yeah, and take them head to head. Make 2 pots of coffee. Try them against each other. Test them out. What a wonderful thing to do on a Sunday afternoon or Saturday, whenever, and have a cupping at your home. And that's another good podcast. Cupping. Right. Well, I think we have hit 30 minutes and we've gone right past it. But that's okay. Thank you so much for joining us on today's podcast. Again, Always feel free to subscribe. We always appreciate that. And leave a comment. I mean, if there is something truly you think we've missed, that we've gotten wrong, or that you just genuinely have a curiosity about, we really appreciate that. We want to answer questions that are helpful. But yeah, check us out at beanstuff.com. We've got some exciting stuff coming down the pipeline. Your coffee's out.
I've finished my coffee. My
I've
two brothers
finished my
is
cup.
gone.
My cup's empty.
That's always a good sign when we're cupping, and that I shouldn't be going on. But I always say to our staff that when we're cupping coffee, we've got 5 cups. If 2 cups are almost empty,
Right.
good sign that was a good coffee.
Yeah. So if you're trying a coffee and you're not sure if you like it, but your coffee's gone, chances are it's pretty good.
It was probably pretty good. Anyway, sorry.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your Friday. This came out on a Friday if you're listening in the future. Yeah, we'll see you next week.